Hi, I'm Joel Bloom, president of New Jersey Institute of Technology. At NJIT, we believe that not only our students, but all citizens need to be informed about the issues facing higher education. As New Jersey's Science and Technology University, NJIT is proud to support the important programming produced by the CAUCUS Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of CAUCUS New Jersey has been provided by activists in cooperation with the American Medicine Chess Challenge, Steve and Elaine Pozicki, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, the Russell Berry Foundation, New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities, Berkeley College, and by TD Bank. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by POLITICKERNJ.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. It is my pleasure to introduce, once again, he joins us, Dr. Shuvendu Sen. He is Associate Program Director, Internal Medicine Residency at Raritan Bay Medical Center. Good to see you again, Doctor.
Good to see you, too.
We're here to talk about heroin, opiate addiction problem in New Jersey and across this country, a legislative effort going on in the state of New Jersey, and talk about where we are at progress. By the way, there's a poll, Fairleigh Dickinson University, their Public Mind poll.
Right.
Tell me if I'm right on this, 91%. 9 out of 10 plus New Jersey residents believe that doctors should in fact be required to tell their patients about the addiction risks in the drugs that they prescribe.
Right.
Rarely do so many New Jerseyans agree on anything. Why do you think so many New Jerseyans agree on this?
I think, we are realizing that in the state of New Jersey, we are standing in isolation. If you look to the other states of the country, we have all they have all implemented those guidelines. The mandate that physicians need to inform the patients about the adverse effects of this.
A mandate that physicians are required to say that again?
Physicians are required to apprise or inform their patients about the adverse effects of these highly controlled substances.
Right now in New Jersey, they are not.
They are not.
The legislative effort is in place to try to do that.
Yes.
The public supports that.
The public overwhelmingly supports that.
Go ahead.
So obviously there is something fundamentally wrong that we are doing. I mean, forget about the rest of the world. We address pain management in a totally different way. But the other states in the country have been very strong in the implementation. So I think time has come for us. And a good number of physicians, we think that we do need those guidelines which are firm, decisive, scientific. Unfortunately, there's another school of thought where some physicians would think that the time has not come, or the physicians should be given the liberty to prescribe the medications at their own discretion. So this is a very sad crossroad that we are in. But I think we are forgetting the fundamental point. The quintessential point here is we are dealing with a pain medication which has the capability to take off your pain, but it also carries the potential to take off your life. So we have to understand that this is a very controlled substance. It cannot be prescribed like this. So we got to follow the mandate of the people. We can't go against the voice of New Jersey, and we got to get these guidelines in.
I want to be clear on a couple things. When the doctor makes reference to some voices against this, the Medical Society of New Jersey, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, has taken a position on this.
Right.
They are against the mandate. We asked the Medical Society to participate in this discussion. My producers have told me that they have opted not to participate. We will ask them again on our sister program. My colleague and I, Raphael Puerman, we will ask them to join us to come on and explain their point of view. But they have said no, that they do not support the mandate. And you're saying that the majority of states do have a mandate.
They do.
You are saying 91%, as you just said, in this FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson University Public Mind poll. Most New Jerseyans support it,
right.
The will of the people.
Right.
What would be the legitimate argument, and do you believe there is a legitimate argument, not to have this mandate?
It's a very sad crossroad. We have...
Why do you keep calling it a crossroad?
The crossroad, I mean, most of the states, they have, come out of this crossroad. There is no friction. Unfortunately, in the state of New Jersey, we have this. It's a mindset issue.
What is it in New Jersey? What is it about New Jersey?
A couple of things. It could be nonchalance. We just don't care. Or it could be just we are not looking around to see the standard of care outside. What amazes me here is, for any other diseases, we are in a world of evidence-based medicine, where whatever we do, we just don't do it out of our own choice. There are certain guidelines. For example, if I have a stroke, I can't just come and give a medication. There is a window period. So if you come within that window period, let's say 3 to 3.5 hours, I can give those medications. If you're outside the window period, I won't give those medications. So we are obedient. We are obedient to those guidelines. It's a standard practice. It's a standard practice. So what amazes me is that why we would take an exception when it comes to a situation like this, which has become a crisis, which has become an epidemic. We should not be looking for any exceptions here. We should have guidelines and we should follow them.
What is the prescription monitoring program and why is it relevant to this discussion?
Prescription monitoring program is basically a central database. It presents with all the facts and figures. And that's it. I mean, it's all about visibility. It's all about transparency. It is not a punitive measure. It's an educational tool.
How does it work?
What it does is that it entails a physician to take a look into it and see how many prescriptions have been prescribed, whether that particular patient, and again, we are not trying to profile anyone, but whether that particular patient has gone to another physician asking for the same pills. So that better prepares the physician, right? That better prepares the pharmacist. So the mandate that we have, let's say the state of New York now, they have a mandate that you have to access the PMP to see all those data information before you decide to give this particular prescription. I think it's a very fair thing to do, and we need to have a positive approach here. For example, the common criticism that we get is that doctors don't have time.
Doctors don't have time to be checking the prescription through the prescription monitoring program. What other physician may have approved of this particular medication, this prescription drug for this patient? I don't have time to do that, you say?
This is what we say. We have to have a proactive attitude. I'll take the example of New York. What they have done is that the IT department stepped in. So they stepped in and they upgraded the computer system. They upgraded it to what we call as an iStop, the Internet System Tracking of Prescribed Acts, where you do not have to go through those multiple clicks. 1 or 2 clicks, and you're right there in the final.
You can find out immediately?
Immediately.
Who this patient has gotten prescription drugs from.
Right. And
then make a decision as to whether it's appropriate from a clinical point of view.
Perfect.
Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's what
New Jersey doesn't have this.
New Jersey doesn't have this.
Because?
Because of this mindset that we are interfering with the freedom or the liberty of a physician, which I think is a very retroactive statement.
A couple of minutes left here.
Sure.
Physicians have a huge role to play here in terms of dealing with this heroin and opiate addiction.
Right.
This prescription drug problem, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a situation, as I said, which affects not only the person to whom the prescription is given. Everybody knows this. It introduces an addiction. It becomes the gateway to heroin addiction. And we are losing lives. Boys and girls in the state of New Jersey are dying.
How serious is the problem?
It is of paramount importance. And we got to all club together, everybody, physicians, from the Senate to the media. We all have to shake hands and put this epidemic to a dead end.
There are 21 bills in the state legislature right now trying to deal with the drug and opiate crisis in the state.
Right.
Through this program, through One-on-One, our other program, but primarily through New Jersey Capital Report, we'll continue with my colleague Rafael Piorman to monitor this program. Again, we'll try to get the Medical Society of New Jersey to talk about their position on this, but we'll continue with your colleagues, Dr. Sen and others, and through also members of the legislature who were involved in this effort to try to track this. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you very much.
To see more CAUCUS New Jersey with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to welcome Marty Kafafian, who is chairman of the board of the Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey, also an attorney, managing member of the firm BD Panavano. Good to see you.
Thank you for being here.
Your expertise is as an attorney in commercial real estate, right?
That's my practice area.
Let's
Correct.
talk about what's hot. Let's talk about what's not.
Okay.
Commercial real estate market in New Jersey. Got a lot of buildings, big buildings, right? One of them over at Roche.
Right.
They left a couple of years ago. Good things happening.
Exactly.
Hackensack together with Seton Hall opening up medical school. That's great.
That's going to be a
But
great.
you got Mercedes-Benz, you got Hertz leaving big buildings. What's going to happen with them?
Those are going to be difficult situations. Office market, suburban office market, has been relatively flat for a lot of years, even before the recession.
So 2009, is that the line of demarcation?
No, not for office.
Really?
Office has really been struggling. And part of that is the change in technology, because now people can telecommute from home. They've got their laptops, they're on the road. They don't need to be in their offices. Space planning, for the most part, you know, you have cubicles, you have partitions, you're squeezing more people in less space. And unfortunately, there's an excess of office space and the vacancies are still very high. What's got to happen is there's going to be some conversions, like the Hoffman LaRoche property.
You mean conversions from what it was?
To some other use that's not going to be office.
So it's interesting. So because the Hoffman LaRoche building is turning into a medical school,
Right.
that's what you mean? Like it's not going to be another big pharmaceutical, but it could be a medical school.
Could be a medical school. They're going to be, could be retail components to that project. There could be housing components to that project eventually.
But you're saying things aren't going to be what they were.
Correct. I think, you know, you're looking at quite, you know, a number of years before we convert some of this office space to other uses. Some office buildings have been converted to apartments. Again, depending upon the way the office building lays out, that's a possibility. Sometimes it's not. Some office buildings have been torn down and other uses have been developed on those properties. So office, you know, unfortunately is probably the one flat area in New Jersey and probably in most other suburban markets right now.
In terms of commercial real estate, are there any other areas, by the way, in commercial real estate other than office?
You have multifamily residential.
What's going on there?
Well, with the multifamily residential, right now, that's the product everybody wants.
Why?
If you're an investor, there's a tremendous demand for the space. Vacancies are low. Vacancies drive value, okay? Office buildings have high vacancies, so obviously they're less desirable. Multifamily residential apartments, low vacancies, people want to build them, people want to invest in them, and banks want to lend on them. And so as a result, that area has been booming. And what's fascinating is I grew up in New Jersey. And
Where?
Hasbrook Heights.
Okay.
All right. And I can't remember any new residential apartments to speak of in suburbia. It was very difficult to get approvals. It was always viewed as an asset that would produce a lot of school children, that would be a tax burden on schools. So as a result, it was very difficult to get those approvals. Since the recession, towns have become much more open to the idea.
Why?
I think it was the eroding tax base. When real estate values went down in 2009, and they had all these tax appeals, they had to come up with other ideas to raise taxes. And in fact, these projects have been built. The statistics prove that they don't burden the school with the children, which they were worried about.
Kids are not the burden that we thought they were.
Exactly. And
They actually add to the community.
Yeah, and what's happening is a lot of young people want to live in an apartment. They don't
Plus,
want
they're
to own.
spending money in the community.
Yeah, yeah, and it's, you know, and they
They're paying
want.
sales tax,
Yeah,
right?
yep, and they want to live, and if they could, they want to actually not even have to own a car if they could commute to work. So things are changing. You also see it with retirees. I've got some friends that have all of a sudden evaluating whether they want to rent versus downsize and buy a condominium. That wasn't kind of unheard of before. It was always you would downsize to a townhouse, a condo, or unfortunately leave the state, which was worse.
Marty, I want us to switch gears to another market, retail.
Retail.
What do you see?
I just see tremendous expansion there.
Why?
New Jersey has high demographics, high
Well, hold on, what does that mean, high demographics?
You got tremendous density of people in a small area and high incomes. Okay, so people spend money shopping. So retailers want to be here. And once they get into our marketplace, they're very successful.
So hold on, back up. So when you see a big empty storefront, when you see a a certain retail operation leaving.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, it's interesting, I don't want to name them. There's a certain sporting goods store that I'm a big fan of.
Right.
Up in the area you know very well.
Yes.
And about a mile away, up in this shopping mall area, there's another sporting goods shop that opened up that actually has a lot more.
Right.
And I said to my wife, this one, which has a very big name that you know, sports is in it, the name.
Yeah.
I said, there's no way this can survive with this thing right here. The point with this particular sports goods store, here's what I'm trying to say. On the retail side, if one of these things goes, which I often see it, and that thing stays empty, how does that jibe with what you just said, that there's a lot of activity going on in retail? You see these empty spaces.
I think you've got to look over a period of time. When the recession hit, a lot of retailers went out of business. And in particular, if you take a look at a Paramus area, there were a lot of big boxes that were empty.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at.
But they're not now. And
so if you see something empty for a period of time, you can't say, oh, retail's bad.
It's a function of evolution. What next retailer, what next person's going to come along and say, hey, I got an idea, I want to be there, I like New Jersey, I think there's opportunities to make money here and succeed. And I think the vacancy I heard was a little over 6.5% now.
That's low?
Low, in northern New Jersey and central New Jersey.
But Marty, do you often see, like what I was just saying before, like two very similar, if not exactly the same, retailers close together and you go, they can't survive?
Yeah. I mean, and in that particular marketplace, it's not only the sporting goods store. What about, the golf stores? I mean,
yes.
You've got...
They're the same stuff.
The same stuff. And they all succeed, and they all thrive, and they all make money. And sure enough, the weak sisters fall eventually.
Over time.
Over time. But the fact of the matter is it's a wonderful place to do business. And when you look at the retail component, you also look at internet sales, right? And 10 years ago, people came in and said, forget it. Bricks and mortar are going to be gone.
Not true.
Not true.
You're bullish.
Yeah, I am. I do a lot of retail commercial work, and I see the need, I see the demand, and retailers continue to want to expand.
Well, Marty Kafafian, who's chairman of the board of the Commerce and Industry Association, also an attorney expert in the area of commercial real estate with the firm BD Padavano. I want to thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay right there. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more Caucus New Jersey with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Dr. Janet Lin Torre, hospital epidemiologist, Summit Oaks Hospital. Good to see you, doctor.
Good to see you too, Steve.
We have you on to clarify some things about vaccines and about measles. By the way, is there a measles outbreak going on?
There is actually. Up until last week, there's 178 cases reported in the U.S. And this is a large increase in previous years because measles was actually eradicated from the U.S. in the year 2000. The vaccine was introduced in 1963. But in the past few years, the number of cases have been increasing, and this is rather troublesome.
We're going to the spring of 2015. Can you explain why this is happening?
This is happening because more and more parents are opting not to vaccinate their children.
What's up with this? Help us understand this.
Well, the thing is, parents have problems with vaccinating their children, either for personal beliefs or for religious beliefs.
Some parents.
Some parents. More and more parents, though, it appears.
More and more?
More and more. It also appears that these parents are clustering in communities, so they're kind of egging each other on, it appears. And, well, what happens is what happened in Disneyland, the outbreak. So this is really a serious problem.
So if it happens, excuse me, in certain communities that parents are not having their children get vaccinated, it's more likely to be a problem in those communities.
It is. It's a catch-22 because they're opting not to do it, but then it's going to become a problem in those communities.
Okay, but what do you say to those who have questioned whether these vaccines on some level, listen, I have nothing against Jenny McCarthy, and I don't want to make her the, the poster woman for any of this, but she's been talking about this for a long time. She's not the only one. There are elected officials who've been talking about this as well. Both sides of the aisle, Democrats, Republicans. But she's been talking, Jenny McCarthy said, hey, listen, I'm concerned about vaccines and the problems they could cause for our children. Is there medical evidence to show that vaccines cause problems for children?
Actually, there is no scientific evidence for it. There's plenty of scientific evidence saying that vaccines are probably one of the greatest inventions of the 20th century. All kinds of childhood illnesses have been eradicated. Smallpox is now gone. Measles was eradicated, now it's coming back. So many diseases that could easily be prevented by vaccines are now not being seen anymore.
Wait a minute. Help us on this one. The HPV vaccine. Mm-hmm. Explain it. It's a new vaccine?
It's not a new vaccine. It's been around for a while. It's a human papillomavirus vaccine. It's been around for a while, but recently a new one was introduced with 5 more strains. So the first one that was available prevented 70% of cervical cancer. The new one now that has 9 strains is now going to be effective in preventing 90% of cervical cancer. So not only is it an anti-infectious disease vaccine, but it's also an anti-cancer vaccine.
Who should get it?
Boys and girls. Girls 9 to 26, boys 9 to 15. The theory is to have the children vaccinated hopefully before the onset of sexual activity. So that's why the age of 9 was chosen, before they've already been exposed to the HPV. This is a vaccine that really is so innovative. It's surprising that more parents are not getting their children vaccinated.
What about if you had the first vaccine, you should have the second one?
The CDC is currently investigating that. Most likely, the new vaccine is going to replace the old one. It's not certain yet what the recommendations are going to be.
Should politicians, elected officials, be talking about health issues like this?
I don't think so.
I mean, there's not a law against it. There'll never be a law against it because people have the right to say what they want to say. Do they help when they speak about public health issues?
Not really, unless they happen to be a physician. There are some elected officials that are physicians.
Assume you're not. Assume they are not. You say?
I say no. I say that unless they're well educated in what they're talking about, I think they just stir up the public and don't necessarily help matters.
But Governor Christie, in this case, said what he said publicly at first. He said he respected a parent's right to have a choice. And then he clarified what he said. He wasn't alone.
No, he was not alone.
In expressing that point of view.
That's correct. I believe he was expressing his opinion that parents have certain rights over their children.
But don't they?
They do, but I believe in the issue of public health, that trumps everything.
Does it?
I believe it does.
Public opinion on this. Do you believe most parents, most adults, believe that public health trumps parental choice for their children?
I would say the majority probably do.
But this is more split than you would like.
Yes,
I shouldn't speak for you, but my gut tells me that that's true.
I'm actually surprised that we're even talking about this.
Surprised?
I am surprised. It's crazy that a parent can advocate against doing something that is going to help their child ultimately by preventing these diseases. And these diseases, you know what it is? A lot of doctors, including myself, have not seen these illnesses because vaccines have been around for the past 40, 50 years. So these diseases mostly have been eradicated.
But Governor Christie and President Obama ultimately did say the same thing.
Yes, they did.
That you should have your children vaccinated.
They did, but they introduced that little, well, if you're a parent.
But look at all the states. How many states have actually, how many help me on this? There's legislation proposed in numerous states that are allowing parents, 10 states or more, approximately I think it's 10 states, that are allowing parents to opt out.
Yes, I think it's something more like 20. I was actually
20?
surprised.
I thought it was 10, but go ahead.
Yeah,
and
I'm
that's crazy
surprised.
to you.
I think it is crazy. I think the only legitimate reason not to get your child vaccinated is a medical exemption.
Before I let you out of here, the influenza situation, why so many people, help us on the flu, 1 minute.
This year, the influenza vaccine performance was dismal. It was only 18% efficacious. That's because
effective, go ahead.
Right. That's because the virus mutated. And so next year they're going to shake it up and they're going to revamp the vaccine so that hopefully they're going to get more effectiveness.
So better next year. So people who said, I don't want to get the flu shot, doesn't help, you say?
I say still get it anyway. If you're the 18%, that's still better than none. And there also may be some evidence that it may lessen the seriousness of the illness, even if it's not a 100% match.
Doctor, thank you for clarifying some of the confusion out there, because there's nothing more important to us than our kids. And it's important what you just did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was good.
The preceding program has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence, and 13 for WNET, NJTV, and WHYY. Funding for this edition of CAUCUS New Jersey has been provided by activists in cooperation with the American Medicine Chess Challenge, Steve and Elaine Pozicki, NJIT, the Russell Berry Foundation, New Jersey Natural Gas, Berkeley College, and by TD Bank. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. CAUCUS New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.
I think at NJIT there are a lot of smart students.
I came to NJIT for mechanical engineering because within state it's one of probably the top 3 schools for engineering.
It sort of creates a friendly competition where you can learn from them.
It's a great academic school.
I feel I'm being challenged, but at the same time I love the classes I'm taking.
The atmosphere of being here is like being at an upstart company. It's that same kind of drive, that same kind of passion.